Most people don't think about blockchains when they use apps. They think about speed, cost, and whether things just work. But in crypto, that's often where frustration sets in. High fees, congested networks, slow confirmations. For many, those pain points turn innovation into inconvenience. This is where Mantle enters the story. Mantle isn't trying to reinvent blockchain from scratch. Instead, it's asking a simple question. How can we make Ethereum, the most widely used smart contract platform, faster, cheaper, and easier to scale without losing its security? The answer is Mantle's Layer 2 design, a system built to supercharge Ethereum by moving transactions off-chain, processing them more efficiently, and then settling them back securely. It's part of a broader movement of Ethereum scaling solutions, rollups, sidechains, and hybrid designs. But Mantle is carving out its own identity with a unique focus on modular architecture, governance, and community ownership. The project is backed by BitDAO, one of the largest decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, in the world, with billions in treasury assets. That connection matters because it gives Mantle both financial strength and a ready-made community. Unlike some scaling projects that start as technical experiments, Mantle was born from a movement, a DAO-led vision of building infrastructure that serves its members and the wider Ethereum ecosystem. But Mantle isn't just about faster transactions. Its vision is deeper. To create a modular ecosystem where different layers, execution, data availability, settlement can evolve independently, each optimized for its role. Instead of a monolithic design where every upgrade risks breaking the system, Mantle wants to build something flexible, upgradable, and future-proof. For the average user, what does that mean? It means sending transactions with fees measured in cents instead of dollars. It means applications that don't freeze when Ethereum gets busy. It means the possibility of mass adoption without bottlenecks, where millions, even billions, of users can interact with DeFi apps, games, NFTs, and new experiments without noticing the infrastructure beneath them. And yet, Mantle's story is more than just performance metrics. It's about community-driven finance. With BitDAO's governance model at its foundation, Mantle is positioning itself as an L2 that isn't just run by developers or investors, but by a global community of stakeholders. In a space where decentralization is often claimed but rarely practiced, Mantle wants to prove that governance can be built into the DNA of infrastructure. Of course, this raises questions. Can Mantle differentiate itself in a crowded field of scaling solutions like Arbitrum, Optimism, and zkSync? Can it turn its BitDAO backing into meaningful adoption? And can it balance the trade-offs of speed, cost, and security that define Ethereum scaling? Mantle's story begins with a DAO. Not just any DAO, but BitDAO, one of the largest decentralized autonomous organizations ever created. With billions in treasury assets and backing from major players like Bybit, BitDAO was designed to be a kind of venture collective, pooling resources from a global community to fund projects that could push Web3 forward. But as the DAO grew, one need kept resurfacing: infrastructure. While DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs were booming, the foundation they all relied on, Ethereum, was showing its limits. High fees and network congestion were choking experimentation. BitDAO's community realized that if they wanted the Web3 ecosystem to flourish, they couldn't just fund applications. They needed to support the rails those applications would run on. That's where Mantle came in. Mantle was conceived as Ethereum's helper, not its rival. Instead of building a separate Layer 1 to compete, it aimed to strengthen Ethereum by creating a Layer 2 solution, a faster, cheaper environment that could settle securely back onto Ethereum's base layer. The vision was simple but ambitious. Make Ethereum scalable enough for billions without breaking its security or decentralization. What set Mantle apart from the start was its modular philosophy. Most blockchains are monolithic, one tightly bound system that handles execution, data availability, consensus, and settlement all at once. That works, but it makes upgrading hard. Change one piece and you risk destabilizing the whole. Mantle's vision was different. Split the layers apart. Let the execution layer focus on speed, the data availability layer focus on storage, and Ethereum handle final settlement. Each piece could then evolve independently, like parts of a living system. This modular design wasn't just technical tinkering, it was about future-proofing. The community behind Mantle believed blockchain shouldn't be static. It should adapt as better technology emerges. By making Mantle modular, they created a platform that could absorb new innovations without rebuilding from scratch. The governance ethos also runs deep. Because Mantle grew out of BitDAO, it carries with it the idea that infrastructure should be community-owned. Decisions about the protocol's direction, upgrades, and ecosystem support are shaped not by a central company, but by token holders who collectively steer its future. In a space where many projects brand themselves as decentralized but operate like startups, Mantle's roots in DAO governance give it a distinct identity. And behind all of this is a vision not just of faster transactions, but of accessibility, where users in emerging markets can interact with DeFi or NFTs without paying more in gas than the value they're sending. It's a vision of Ethereum as a truly global platform, not just one for the wealthy or early adopters. In short, Mantle's origins combine three forces: the capital and community of BitDAO, the technical need to scale Ethereum, and the philosophical drive to keep infrastructure open and community-owned. But vision alone doesn't make blockchain succeed. To understand how Mantle plans to deliver on this promise, we need to dive into its architecture, the mechanics that make its speed, scalability, and modularity possible. Mantle's design is built on one principle: modularity. Instead of one chain doing everything, Mantle breaks blockchain functions into separate layers, each optimized for its own job. This architecture makes it flexible, upgradable, and able to adapt as technology evolves. At the core, Mantle is an Ethereum Layer 2 built on the Optimistic Rollup model. That means it processes transactions off-chain, bundles them into batches, and posts those batches back to Ethereum for final settlement. By handling computation and storage elsewhere, Mantle reduces congestion on Ethereum while still inheriting its security. But Mantle adds its own twist: a modular stack with three key components. Execution layer. This is where transactions happen. Mantle's execution layer is EVM compatible, meaning developers can deploy Ethereum smart contracts without rewriting code. It feels like Ethereum, but faster and cheaper. Transactions are processed off-chain, bundled together, and later finalized on Ethereum, which acts as the ultimate source of truth. Data availability layer. Traditional rollups rely heavily on Ethereum for data availability, the storage of transaction data that ensures transparency and security. But this can be costly. Mantle integrates EigenDA, a data availability solution from the EigenLayer ecosystem. This lets Mantle offload storage while keeping it secure and verifiable. The result? Lower costs and higher throughput. Settlement layer. Ethereum itself. By anchoring everything back to Ethereum's base layer, Mantle ensures that even if its execution or data layers face issues, the integrity of transactions remains protected by Ethereum's security guarantees. Together, these layers create a scalable, cost-efficient system that can evolve over time. If a better data availability solution emerges, Mantle can integrate it. If execution models improve, Mantle can adopt them. It's like a modular smartphone where you can swap out parts without replacing the whole device. Mantle also focuses on governance and community integration. Unlike many Layer 2s run by private teams, Mantle is governed by the Mantle community, with decisions influenced by BitDAO's legacy. Token holders can guide protocol upgrades, treasury spending, and ecosystem development. This gives the project a decentralized backbone from the start. Performance is where Mantle shines. By using modular components, it reduces fees dramatically compared to Ethereum mainnet, often to just a few cents per transaction. Block times are faster and throughput scales as new data availability layers and roll-up optimizations come online. For developers, this means building apps that feel as smooth as Web 2, but with Web 3 transparency. Security is handled through fraud proofs, the mechanism at the heart of Optimistic Rollups. If someone tries to post an invalid batch, anyone can challenge it within a dispute window. This keeps actors honest and ensures that only valid transactions are finalized. The design also makes Mantle developer-friendly. Since it's EVM compatible, existing Ethereum tools, Solidity, Hardhat, MetaMask, work seamlessly. Developers don't need to learn new languages or frameworks, lowering barriers to entry. In short, Mantle's architecture isn't just about speed. It's about building a future-proof, modular Layer 2 that can evolve alongside Ethereum and the broader scaling landscape. But technology alone doesn't guarantee success. The real question is, who's using Mantle? What projects are building on it? And how is its ecosystem growing? A blockchain's architecture can be brilliant on paper, but its real measure is adoption. Who's building on it? Who's using it? And what kind of ecosystem is growing around it? For Mantle, the story of adoption is deeply tied to its roots in BitDAO and its commitment to funding builders from day one. From the start, Mantle had something most new Layer 2s don't: a massive treasury. Through BitDAO's community and partnerships, billions of dollars were earmarked for ecosystem development. That meant Mantle could immediately support grants, hackathons, and early-stage projects without waiting for VC funding or user fees. This financial runway gave developers confidence, not just in the technology, but in the long-term commitment behind it. One of the early pillars of Mantle's ecosystem is DeFi. Protocols like lending platforms, decentralized exchanges, and yield strategies began deploying to Mantle, attracted by low fees and Ethereum compatibility. Since it's EVM-based, moving an app from Ethereum mainnet or other L2s to Mantle is relatively seamless. That's been a key driver of adoption. Developers don't need to reinvent the wheel to reach Mantle's user base. NFTs and gaming are also emerging sectors. High gas fees on Ethereum have historically made NFTs costly to mint and trade. On Mantle, costs are reduced to cents, opening the door for creators and gamers to experiment without worrying about prohibitive fees. NFT marketplaces and play-to-earn experiments are starting to appear, testing Mantle's ability to support high-volume, low-cost interactions. Mantle has also prioritized data availability partnerships, most notably with EigenLayer and its EigenDA solution. This partnership not only reduces costs, but also signals to developers that Mantle is serious about modular innovation. Builders see it as an ecosystem that won't stay stagnant, but will keep integrating best-in-class tools as the broader Ethereum scaling landscape evolves. Community adoption plays a big role too. Because Mantle grew out of BitDAO, its governance token holders are active participants in shaping the ecosystem. Treasury funds are voted on, partnerships are debated in forums, and users feel a sense of ownership. This dynamic stands out compared to more top-down L2 ecosystems, where decisions are made by small core teams. Metrics reflect steady growth. Mantle has attracted liquidity to its DeFi protocols, onboarded developers through hackathons, and secured listings on major wallets and dashboards. While it doesn't yet rival the scale of Arbitrum or Optimism, it's carving a niche by combining technical innovation with strong financial and community backing. Still, adoption isn't just about numbers. It's about whether Mantle becomes a place where new ideas can flourish. Developers are drawn to ecosystems that feel alive, with active governance, funding opportunities, and a clear technical vision. Mantle is positioning itself as that kind of place. Not just another layer 2, but a modular playground where builders can experiment, scale, and tap into a DAO-powered treasury. Yet growth brings scrutiny. Can Mantle keep attracting developers in a crowded field? Can it convert BitDAO's financial strength into lasting network effects? And can it move from promising adoption metrics to breakout use cases that capture mainstream attention? To answer those questions, we need to look at the other side of the story: the challenges and criticisms Mantle faces. Every blockchain project carries both promise and pressure. For Mantle, the pressure comes from being a new entrant in one of the most competitive arenas, Ethereum scaling. While its design and treasury give it unique strengths, there are hurdles it must overcome to realize its vision. The first challenge is crowded competition. Layer 2 solutions are no longer experimental, they're becoming mainstream. Arbitrum, Optimism, and zkSync already host large ecosystems, significant liquidity, and millions of users. These networks had the advantage of early adoption and brand recognition. Mantle must convince developers and users not only that it's technically solid, but that it offers something distinct enough to justify the switch. Another challenge is proving modularity at scale. On paper, Mantle's modular approach, separating execution, data availability, and settlement, is elegant. In practice, it's still early days. Relying on external partners like EigenDA introduces dependencies. If those solutions stumble, Mantle could inherit risks outside its direct control. The challenge will be demonstrating reliability and uptime at the same level as Ethereum itself. Then there's the issue of user education and awareness. While developers may appreciate modular innovation, everyday users care about one thing: does it work cheaply and smoothly? If onboarding is complex or if the brand isn't widely recognized, users may stick with larger L2s. Competing in crypto isn't just about technology, it's about narrative, visibility, and community culture. Mantle also faces scrutiny around its BitDAO connection. On one hand, being backed by one of the largest DAOs in history is a strength. On the other, critics worry about governance capture. Large token holders could exert outsized influence, raising questions about whether decision-making will truly reflect the broader community. Decentralization in theory doesn't always equal decentralization in practice. Economic sustainability is another open question. Incentives from a large treasury can attract developers and liquidity in the short term, but what happens when the subsidies run out? Many ecosystems have learned that bootstrapping growth through incentives creates temporary spikes, not lasting adoption. Mantle will need to show that it can cultivate organic, self-sustaining growth that doesn't rely forever on treasury spending. Finally, there's the regulatory landscape. As Layer 2s become critical infrastructure, governments may begin to ask harder questions about compliance, data handling, and financial oversight. Mantle, with its DAO roots and community-driven governance, may face unique challenges in explaining how accountability works when no single company is in charge. None of these criticisms mean Mantle is doomed. They are simply the realities of building in an industry where the bar is constantly rising. If Mantle wants to succeed, it must differentiate itself not just by modular tech, but by building trust, reliability, and cultural identity strong enough to compete with established players. The question then becomes, how can Mantle turn its challenges into opportunities? What does its roadmap look like? And what role might it play in Ethereum's future? The future of Mantle rests on a single promise: to make Ethereum scalable, affordable, and accessible for the next generation of users. Whether it can deliver on that promise will depend on how it evolves from being a well-funded experiment into a widely used piece of infrastructure. One of the clearest directions is expansion of its modular stack. By separating execution, data availability, and settlement, Mantle can upgrade each layer independently. In the years ahead, this flexibility could allow it to integrate new innovations, such as more advanced fraud-proof systems, zk-based technologies, or alternative data availability providers. Mantle can adapt as the scaling landscape shifts. That adaptability could prove to be its greatest advantage. Another focus will be ecosystem growth. With BitDAO's treasury as rocket fuel, Mantle is positioned to support developers through grants, accelerator programs, and liquidity incentives. But the real test will be fostering breakout applications. DApps that bring in not just crypto-native users, but people who have never touched blockchain before. Whether it's gaming, NFTs, or next-generation DeFi protocols, Mantle needs flagship projects that showcase what low fees and high throughput make possible. Cross-chain connectivity is another frontier. The future won't be defined by one chain, but by many, working together. Mantle's modular architecture makes it well-suited to become part of this multi-chain fabric, where assets and data move seamlessly across ecosystems. If Mantle can position itself as an interoperable hub, not just another silo, it could amplify its relevance far beyond Ethereum's borders. Governance will also shape Mantle's trajectory. With its roots in BitDAO, Mantle carries the responsibility of proving that community-driven infrastructure is viable. That means refining on-chain governance to be transparent, efficient, and resistant to capture by large token holders. If successful, Mantle could stand as a model for how DAOs can govern not just treasuries or apps, but entire blockchain networks. Of course, the regulatory environment looms large. As DeFi and Layer 2s attract more attention from policymakers, Mantle will need to balance openness with compliance. Its decentralized governance may offer resilience, but regulators will still want clarity about accountability. How Mantle engages with these realities could influence its adoption among institutional users and mainstream applications. The biggest question, though, is whether Mantle can establish an identity that resonates. Arbitrum and Optimism are known as dominant rollups. zkSync and Starknet are leading the zero-knowledge frontier. For Mantle to thrive, it must tell a clear story. Why its modular approach, community governance, and BitDAO roots make it unique. And why users and developers should choose it over others. If it succeeds, Mantle could become more than just another scaling solution. It could be a blueprint for modular blockchains, showing how infrastructure can evolve flexibly while staying anchored to Ethereum's security. It could be remembered not as a competitor in the scaling race, but as a cornerstone of Ethereum's journey to mass adoption. And that leads us to the final question. What does Mantle's story really mean for the future of Ethereum, and for all of us who hope to see blockchain move from niche to mainstream? When we step back and look at Mantle's story, what stands out is how it reflects the evolution of blockchain itself. It isn't just a technical project. It's a response to the core tension that has shaped Ethereum for years. How do you stay secure and decentralized while still being fast and affordable enough for the world to use? Ethereum proved what's possible with smart contracts. It gave us DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, entire industries that didn't exist a decade ago. But it also exposed the limits of first-generation blockchains. High gas fees, slow confirmations, and scalability bottlenecks pushed users away or priced them out. Mantle was born to answer those limits, not by reinventing Ethereum, but by amplifying it. Its origins in BitDAO give it a unique identity. Few Layer 2s began with such a large treasury or such a strong community. That foundation gives Mantle financial strength and governance legitimacy. It wasn't built in a vacuum. It was built out of a global DAO with a mandate to invest in the future of Web3. That DNA matters because it shapes Mantle not as a corporate project, but as community infrastructure. Its modular design also sets it apart. Instead of a single monolithic chain, Mantle splits responsibilities across execution, data availability, and settlement. That makes it flexible, upgradable, and future-proof. It's an architecture designed not just for today's needs, but for tomorrow's innovations. In a space where technology changes quickly, that adaptability could be the difference between fading into irrelevance and becoming foundational. But Mantle's vision is about more than technology. It's about access. By lowering transaction costs and increasing speed, it opens the door to users who were shut out of Ethereum by high fees. It makes DeFi usable for someone sending $5 instead of $5,000. It makes NFTs affordable to mint without breaking the bank. It brings blockchain closer to being truly global, a tool for anyone, not just the wealthy or the early adopters. At the same time, Mantle faces serious challenges. Competition from other Layer 2s is fierce. Adoption won't come automatically, no matter how large its treasury. Modularity must prove itself in practice, not just in white papers. Governance must stay fair and decentralized, not dominated by a few large players. And the regulatory landscape could complicate its ambitions as governments around the world turn their attention to DeFi and Layer 2s. These challenges don't diminish Mantle's potential. They define the journey ahead. And if Mantle can rise to them, it has a chance to become not just another scaling solution, but a model for how infrastructure can be community-driven, modular, and future-ready. The bigger picture here is about Ethereum itself. Ethereum doesn't need one Layer 2 to succeed. It needs many. Each scaling solution explores a different path, and together they form an ecosystem that makes Ethereum resilient and adaptable. Mantle's contribution is to bring modularity, governance, and DAO-driven innovation into that ecosystem. If it succeeds, Ethereum's reach grows with it. So what does Mantle ultimately mean? It means the dream of a blockchain world where performance doesn't come at the cost of decentralization, where users in any country can interact with apps without being priced out, where communities can govern not just apps but the very infrastructure they run on. That vision may sound ambitious, but so did Ethereum when it launched. The future of blockchain is built one layer at a time, and Mantle is staking its claim as one of those critical layers. If it fulfills its promise, we may look back on Mantle as more than a scaling project. We may see it as a blueprint for how blockchains can evolve. Modular, community-owned, and ready for billions.